I am Stephon, and I was responsible for reading the book Run, Don't Walk.
My name's Tony, and I got to watch the documentary States of Grace.
I am Chuck. I also watched States of Grace.
Okay. And we are here to discuss those movies, or their movie, my book, some associated articles that we have looked up in preparation for the annotated bibliography assignment, and kind of tie it all together with the discussion topic of being able to articulate the influence of grief and coping skills on professional burnout, job satisfaction, and the adjustment process for both caregivers and care receivers. I will happily start out with talking about my book because I really enjoyed this. This book spoke to me. I mean, that's why I chose it. It jumped out to me as a something that I would probably enjoy, and I really did. This book, honestly, this woman, what she wrote about, this is what I wanted to do when I was in Afghanistan, thinking about the patients I was treating then. This is what I was like, this is what I want to do. She got to do it, so this is me getting to live vicariously through what I wanted to do at that point. So, but she was a physical therapist who was not assigned, she was a civilian, who was working at Walter Reed Medical Center in DC from like, I think it was 2005 to 2011 when Walter Reed eventually shut down. And got, well, in DC and then got moved to Maryland. And she was working through the surge in Iraq and then through the surge in Afghanistan, and dealing with a lot of patients, a lot of the type of patients that I was seeing in Afghanistan. Like when we were picking them up off the field, she was seeing them once they got to her clinic there. So a lot of amputees, and talking about a lot of what she went through, a lot as far as motivating them to start their lives over, learning how to walk with prosthetic limbs. A lot of the experiences that she had with the amount of the patient load that they were given. They were dealing with a lot. They were working, I mean, they were blazing through a lot of patients. They had full caseload on a daily basis and then some. And they were probably working 12-hour days, because I mean, she was saying they started at like 7 in the morning and then worked through not through the evening, but worked and then had a lot more to do, and just how they were able to maintain some semblance of sanity through all of this. I mean, and also they called their clinic, there's these large glass walls, and I mean, it was there in DC, which a lot of it's the home of our legislative branch, so a lot of they called their clinic the fishbowl, because they had like Congress people, senators, famous people coming through all the time to observe what they were doing. And it was I mean, it was kind of it's a tough thing to do. I mean, you're working with these patients that have just come through the worst experience of their life, trying to get them to keep them motivated and help them, like I said, restart their lives. And all the while you've got groups of people in the hallway outside, kind of like the glass here, staring in at what you're doing. And it was, I mean, I can only imagine that it was a very difficult thing to deal with. And I mean, they went through a lot as far as, and I mean, and of course, a lot of the Army or Department of Defense bureaucracy that they had to deal with. But it was also really good in some ways, because it talked a lot about topics that we've discussed that I was like, this is, I feel like she's drawing straight from some of the lectures that we've talked about, but it's just physical therapy stuff. So it was really interesting, and it was, like I said, it was kind of therapeutic for me to be able to read this, and see what it was like, you know, having never gotten the chance to do what I wanted to do, just circumstantially, but to see what someone who did get to do that, what it was like for them. And I mean, it's not easy. Burnout is a significant thing for physical therapy in and of itself, but specifically for like what they were dealing with. I mean, their caseload was, I don't wish that on anyone. It was tough. So, and especially given the gravity of the patients that they were dealing with. So, I mean, everything from, amputations below the knee, double amputations above the knee, triple amputations. You know, they were dealing with a lot, and it was it's pretty intense. I mean, it's not intense. The book is not intense. I don't know. For me, it wasn't because I've already been through that fire. So it was kind of familiar to me, but it was good. I'm kind of talking too long, so I'll let you. And I really want to hear about.
This is actually really good. I'm like,
Yeah, there's so many questions I have to ask too,
Yeah.
but I think we should introduce. But
I mean, let's come back to it.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I want to hear what you guys about the movie. I read the review of Grace, and I want to hear what you guys had to what it was about. So
totally.
either one of you.
So, yeah, thank you for sharing about the book. I think that it's so cool that you had like the opportunity to like relate it to yourself, you know, and that you chose it for that reason. And I didn't realize that in watching this documentary that it was going to actually relate to my own life. It's not quite the same, but similar. My Aunt Jill, we just lost my cousin Tim a couple weeks ago from cancer, and she took care of him for 2 years, and it was intense. I mean, she did everything for him, cooked for him, cleaned up his poop and pee, and watched him just fall apart over like the last 2 years, and it was intense. And this really, I mean, somewhat helped me kind of see a little bit, peek through the window of what that might look like. Though this wasn't quite as intense as dying from cancer, because with Grace, she was actually hopefully going to get better, and she did slowly improve in a number of ways throughout the documentary. But so States of Grace, Dr. Grace DeMond, she was a physician, and she got into a car accident, and it was traumatic. I can't remember. 17
broken bones. She was in a coma for 6 days. So the interesting part about her is she was like a nationally recognized HIV/AIDS physician.
In Laguna Hospital.
And it was a big, like, I think the actual like crash was big because it was on the Golden Gate Bridge, right? And so obviously anything on a big monument like that is going to be nationally televised, and they'd expect for her to even survive. So it was remarkable that she did survive. Yeah, her friends were just like, they didn't think that she was going to make it. So when they found out that she actually pulled through and that she was awake and like talking, they were like, they couldn't believe it. It was a huge deal.
So if you put yourself in her shoes, she's this like world-renowned physician, you know, she's a lot of accomplishments, and then all of a sudden she's in this coma state and wakes up, you know, like I'm assuming she probably didn't remember anything other than just waking up.
Yeah.
And having to be told, you know, you've been in a severe car accident, you've been in a coma for 6 days, you have all these life-altering injuries, and it's gonna require months and years of, you know, rehab and this complicated process, when she was on the opposite side of, you know, helping people.
Totally.
Who had this disease for life, essentially. And they had to learn how to cope with it. So that's basically kind of how it is it's switching the roles of someone who was a caretaker to someone who's now receiving the care.
Yeah, totally. Yes. So when Grace ended up getting in the accident, she was, throughout the whole documentary, she's in a relationship with a gal named Fu, and Fu is actually a priest in the Buddhist community that they live in, and it's kind of tucked away somewhere in California. But the hospital that they worked at, or that Grace previously worked at, and it was like Charlie said, like she started this like in the 1990s, early 90s. They started the AIDS department or whatever. Her and this other guy. It was a big deal. But anyway, so Fu was the caregiver for Grace, and they had a daughter, Sabrina, and Sabrina herself also had physical impairments of her own. Her mother was a drug addict, and they adopted her. Fu and Grace did, and really amazing story. And like both of them they want to help people. Like both of them want to just be they want to be good.
Charlie was talking about Grace, like describing her, and I was just thinking like what a dedicated person she is to be, like this, you know,
Right.
I don't know, internationally, I'm not sure, at least within the States, renowned physician, and clearly accomplished, and then having the tables turned through that accident and the state that she wound up being in, and then what her partner had to go through with, like, already, I'm assuming, being probably like the primary caregiver for their daughter with her impairments, and now having to take that on as well, like the caregiver burden right there. Just immediately in my mind was like, wow, what she had to go through.
Right.
Jeez.
Because you're right. Fu had to take care of Sabrina now, who was in high school. Like at this point, she was like in like the very beginning of the documentary, probably a freshman or something. And then she was graduating at the very end of the documentary. But and Grace.
Yeah.
You know, and so it was like a lot. I mean, for Fu, and we can get into that, but she talked about, you know, feeling like she was.
Well, I think I remember her saying like she was surprised when, like, basically they told her like, you're gonna play all of these roles. Like, no, you're gonna be the rehab specialist. You're gonna deal with the medical tasks. Like, you're gonna help everything, along with being a lover and a caregiver to your child all at the same time.
Right.
And
That's a lot.
So they obviously they have to navigate this emotional roller coaster of grief and frustration. And when we were talking before, Grace says something profound in the movie. She's like, I feel like I've lost my best friend. And Fu's like, who's your best friend? She said, my old self.
Oh, wow.
So
That is, man, that's intense. Jeez.
and so you recognize like that process of rehabilitation, like someone who was so independent, who probably never thought that, like, you know, she was gifted this ability to help others, you know,
Right.
and now she has to be fully dependent on them.
Man, that's just, I'm just so struck by that quote. I mean, I feel like it could absolutely be applied to so many of the patients that Adele, the author, treated in this book. But I mean, and frankly, coming from this background, I'm totally fine saying it. She's dealing with a bunch of jarhead soldiers who probably didn't have enough, like, you know, self-awareness to say it. I mean,
Right.
I feel confident saying that. All right, I know soldiers. All right,
Yeah.
they're meatheads. All right, love them, but they're meatheads. But I mean, yeah, absolutely. That's intense, because yeah, you do. Your old self is now gone, and phrasing it as like your best friend, like that's so incredibly well stated. Man, it's awesome.
And then so thinking like, with that, you know, all of her goals have changed, right? Like a person who was really ambitious, she probably had all these huge goals. It was like, oh, I'm gonna help this many people this year or whatnot. And now it's as simple as like, I just want to be able to walk.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
that was the big thing, right? She couldn't toilet herself. I mean, she couldn't brush her teeth. I mean, she had so many fixations, like all like, in her upper extremities, lower extremities. Her foot was like inverted, and it was like what do you call it? Is that supination? Yeah, supinated. Is that right? No, that's supinate. Pronate.
Pronate.
Am I a doctor of physical therapy school?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And they fixated it that way, so she couldn't barely walk on it, you know?
Yeah.
And then her elbows as well, so like she was like this, you know, when she wanted to start stitching and she just couldn't do it. It was insane. It was incredible, but
Did she ever get back to being able to practice at any level
she
of her
did.
previous
That's
self?
the cool
That's
part. Yes. Yes. So she did. She ended up going back to Laguna Beach or Laguna Hospital, and she worked as a physician again, but with a new identity, and that was what was kind of cool about the whole story, was that, you know, she felt she was losing her best friend because she had gone through this traumatic accident. She was no longer capable of doing the things that she could do before. And then throughout we see her struggle and Fu struggle, but at the end it's kind of a nice, beautiful ending where it's like, okay, so I'm experiencing pain still, I'm still impaired and I can't do these things. However, I'm going to go back to practice, and I'm going to practice in a new way. I'm going to be able to relate to my patients in a different way.
Oh, wow.
And so, and they showed scenes of that where she was working with patients in different wheelchairs with AIDS, and and she was moving around, like she was doing like a physical exam on one gal or whatever, and so she was moving into this new role as the director of the pain clinic, also seeing patients, and she's like, I didn't want anything to do with pain before I got in my accident. She's like, I hated the word, you know, I don't like the word pain, and she said, here I am, the director of the pain clinic, and I can relate to my patients, you know.
Absolutely.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, I just think it's just so fitting that her name is Grace, and obviously the state of grace is like she's the embodiment of grace. You know, she goes through those actual stages of always trying to help others, and then she's feeling that burden herself, and now she recognizes like what it's actually like to have grace, because she has to feel it herself. Like she could always thought, you know, I'm relating to this patient, but now that she's actually had to live it, she realizes how deep that has to go.
Yeah.
So
it's good.
Yeah. Man, I gotta see this now.
So I guess we could go back to our question.
Yeah. I wanted to. Honestly, I wanted to try and segue into burnout. Because a lot of what I researched on, what I found was heavily discussed burnout. And the book, it didn't talk about grief as much. Like, I gotta be honest, coming from a military medical background, the gallows humor it's your compensation. It's how you get through the day. It's how you deal with what you're going through, and it's so obvious. Like, it's so evident in this book. Like, I recognize so many things that they talk about. Like, you know, you do what you have to do to survive, because what you're dealing with can be so overwhelming. But I never really saw them talk about grief. So hopefully they were able to deal with it well. I mean, maybe there could be like a prologue to the book of, like, you know, come to find out so many of like the author or maybe some of her peers, like they wound up like dealing with so much later on, and it just didn't make it into the book. I don't know. But what was obvious was the amount of burnout, because they're all just like, I mean, some are handling it better than others, but I mean, they're all just like stretched so thin, and like it's such a real thing. And I mean, burnout's big in PT regardless. And I mean, I hate to talk about that, given
though, average like 7 years or so.
Yeah, given our scenario or our state of our position in school right now, burnout is huge in physical therapy. I mean, and there's I'm gonna look it up because I can't remember what it's exactly what it's called. It's the Maslach something inventory. Let's see if I can find it real quick.
While you find that, the thing that pops up in my mind is like, I think there's gonna be a lot of studies that talk about burnout and all the things that affect it, but like just personally, I feel like the reason why burnout becomes so large in things like health is that it takes something that is so personal and real, and it basically desensitizes it. You know what I mean? Like as a physician or as a physical therapist,
Wow.
if you're constantly dealing with, you know, death and pain, it's like that's the most real thing about life. And when that becomes your day-to-day basis, you're so desensitized to what makes things real that you're like, you lose your sense of reality and purpose because the things that rooted you in your personality and in this world are now just something that is so common to you compared to the other person.
Wow.
You know,
That's
so it's
good.
like
That's good.
the burnout I feel like is more of like I need to run away because I've lost my own personal life.
Yeah, it's the Maslach burnout inventory, and it measures 3 dimensions of burnout. The first is emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, and personal achievement. And emotional exhaustion is just like what it sounds like. You're dealing with so much, like you just, you know, you're getting to your wit's end on like what you're dealing with every day. And then, which in healthcare, it can lead to errors. It can lead to patient errors. It can lead to reduced standard of care, etc. And then, I don't know, potentially, that one seemed like, of what I read in research, that one seemed like the one that, it was the first one they always, they seem to talk about, and I won't say always, it was like 2 to 3 articles. The next was depersonalization, and that is like a growing sense of detachment from your patients, where, you know, you're just becoming so overwhelmed that, and you're being drawn into their world and their struggle and their pain so often that it's starting to affect you, and I feel like you just start to put up these walls. Just, I mean, as a way to try and maintain your own sanity. And again, what's it going to lead to? It's going to really lead to reduced patient care and potentially errors. And then personal achievement. And what's interesting is the way that they're measured is like when you do that inventory. Like if you have high emotional exhaustion, it's bad. If you have high depersonalization, obviously bad. I said that right. And then personal achievement, you want a high score. So it's kind of an odd thing. Like I had to read through the results a couple of times to make sure I fully understood what they were reporting, because it was like, you know, high, high, low. Like, well, they're emotionally exhausted, they're depersonalized, and they have a low sense of personal achievement. Because I was expecting them all to like be graded the same way. So, but
That's interesting.
yeah.
Do you think that
Someone's low personal, like, you know, self-efficacy and personal belief would, you know, change your own ability to provide quality care?
I mean, it's gonna
like,
vary person to person.
Right, but I'm saying like because you said, what are the 3 things you said?
Emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, and personal achievement.
Right, and it's like it's almost guaranteed if those first 2 are high. I feel like
The third one has to be low.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's interesting that, or like vice versa, if that bottom one's high, then they're, you know, those other ones are probably going to not be as high because of the self-perception of it.
Yeah. What's really interesting is there wasn't, they at least on this one article that really published their results really well, like very intricately, and very rarely was it like 1, 2, 3. It was, and it really had a lot to do with like demographics. Like married people did better. People who had new graduates had a higher sense of personal achievement, which makes sense because you're fresh. You feel like you're still learning.
Totally.
Whereas older graduates had less personal achievement, et cetera, et cetera. Salary was a big one. The more you're paid, the better off you're doing, which.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know. It was frustrating to read that.
It's like, it can't be true.
Yeah, I know. I was like, money. But
I think that also leads to burnout too, which is, you know, it's an interesting concept.
Yeah, I mean, if you're
chasing
dealing,
money,
if you're doing so much at work every day and dealing with, because you get drawn into your patients' worlds, and And I mean, that's what burnout is like you're dealing with it so much on a regular basis. And if you are doing that and you're not getting compensated well, like sooner or later you're gonna ask, why am I doing this?
Right.
It's just gonna get to you, and you're gonna like
Totally.
you're gonna wear down.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's like one of those things, you have to have a personal relationship with your patients. You have to, and I feel
Right, it's like what
and
we're
the
getting
people,
into.
well, right, and the people that don't, it's like, okay, so then why are you doing this? Like, you're
Why?
losing your sense of purpose if you don't actually want to have a relationship with them.
Yeah.
Then you have to ask, like, how effective are they actually being? You know, like if they don't have that, you know.
Well, yeah, like it says, it makes sense why that burnout would occur if I'm treating someone and I'm so emotionally attached, so now I have to detach myself from something that has to be a personal relationship to work. Everything's gonna fall, you know, your sense of worth, because okay, I don't relate to this person, or I'm just pretending that this is not what it actually is, and you just, yeah, I don't know, it's a crazy rabbit hole, because it's really all self-perception when it comes down to it, because I'm sure you've had a I don't know your experience at all, but you being in the military and doing all that, you've had to probably teach yourself many coping mechanisms that allowed you to overcome the burdens and the burnout. And that's the things you told yourself, probably.
It's tough. There are definitely, I mean, you know, in the States, in garrison is what we call it, like just being home. It's generally no big deal. You're doing the, you know, I won't say 9 to 5. You're doing, that's the military schedule, you know, 6 to 5, whatever it may be. And you know, it's tough. You know, it wears on you. They're long days, but it's okay. You can you figure out ways to handle it, and a lot of guys turn to drinking. Drinking is huge in the military. Whereas in country, and especially like the mission that we had in Afghanistan, in Iraq, we got lucky. It was a slow period. We were definitely picking up patients, but it wasn't of the nature of the gravity that we would see 2 years later. And in Afghanistan, it was a completely different story, and I mean, I know it hit some people hard. Like I've got a friend of mine, Jesse, who he had a particularly bad mission that it hit him really hard. What he saw that day was more than any one person should really ever have to see. I mean, it was awful. And this is Silver Star winner for bravery. Like same year, like went in, did a mission so dangerous, and was so on the spot, like Silver Star. And then later that year, mission so bad that what he saw, like he had to come off of the schedule for a while because he needed time to recover. And how do you deal with that? Like, there's a lot, and you know, most of the guys, they just they try to numb themselves to it through humor. And I mean, I don't know if this is appropriate. I won't tell that story.
You have to tell us afterwards.
Yeah. It's but I mean, yeah, that gallows humor, man. It's your lifeline, because if you can't maintain some sense of humor, some sense of self, some joy, then you know, where are you going to go? You're just going to go down, you know, that dark hole. And it's rough. It's hard to come back from. So.
Yeah.
You don't even imagine.
Should we dive into, you know, we're talking about burnout,
Yeah.
but I think we're talking burnout more in the sense of being a caregiver.
Sure.
Yeah.
Maybe how it can pertain more to the receiver.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, just from our movie and in general, you can only imagine someone.
Are you talking about the perspective of Grace?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure I understood you.
You can only imagine someone who is probably has, like, if she were to take that test, she probably would have done pretty well. I mean, I feel like she's had a lot of achievement and all these things. And if you were to, like, wipe her memory and have her restart, she'd probably grade a lot lower, you know?
Right.
So it's like, it's interesting how that plays a role too, like who you were before your injury and how that affects who you are after. Because, you know, if you're some big hot shot and all of a sudden you lose it all, now, you know, her burden, I think, is higher because of the frustration and her low satisfaction because she had such big dreams that she accomplished before.
Right.
And if it's someone who maybe already had a lot of low efficacy, maybe they're already depressed and something like that happens, you know, maybe they don't perceive it as bad. I'm not sure how to explain that, but the burnout, I think, is of the receiver, I think we overlook a lot because we're just like, oh, they're showing up. But just with talking to the people that we have come from the neuro gate, and also when just the patients you have and the PCM, it's like a lot of them, they're so afraid to try the thing they used to be good at because of the way they would do it now.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Totally.
And
You're
it's
spot on. Yeah.
And it's a weird thing because it's like, are they gonna burn themselves out trying to become that person that they want, that they used to be? Like, is that what it is? Or is it, in a sense, like, they just don't want to try that because they've already let that person die, and once they wake that person back up, you know,
They're not
it's like,
that same.
yeah, well,
Right,
they're not the
right,
same, but it's
right.
like they're gonna never stop chasing that person.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know?
Man, that's interesting. Jeez.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
letting that old self die. Wow.
And that's, I read an article that kind of talked about that process that you're talking about. I mean, you can only imagine, you know, like one of these veterans or Grace. There's a lot of, I mean, you lose your sense of dignity when people have to do these things for you.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Especially like a high functioning person like Grace.
right.
Like, God, what is and honestly the ego
Right.
of like
Right.
some of these soldiers who think that,
Right.
you know, where they're coming from. Like, look what I was able to do, how much of a badass I was, and now
I
where am
can't.
Yeah.
Right.
Ugh.
And so it's like, I mean, Grace in the movie, she was just like, I hate this. Like, she was upset, and she's like, I don't want to be bored, and I'm bored, and I hate to ask for help. I can't even go to the bathroom by myself. And even though, like, her partner was like, you know, it's okay, like, it's all right. You're actually getting, like, better. Can't you see that this is getting better or whatever? And she's like, I'm just getting sick of this. Like, I'm just tired of it. And I can imagine that if you try and hold on, like you said, if you're in a position of Grace or someone who has like had a very traumatic change, you know, where your ability to do certain things will probably not come back. Like, when you think about people like this, individuals like this, if you continue to try and hold on to that old image of yourself, it's going to destroy you. Because you're never going to get it back. So you have to go through this process of letting go of the old self, of what you could do before, and embracing what now you're hopefully able to do what you couldn't do before.
Right.
And that's what I think I saw Grace, what happened with Grace throughout the movie was like, that happened slowly and big time near the end, that she started to realize like, oh, now I'm capable of like giving in a way that I couldn't before.
Yeah.
You know, I can wear what my patients are wearing, you know, like as far as the impairments and the difficulties they have to go through.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like one of those things, like if you're someone that has a lot of accomplishments, to reach something that is substantial enough for you to give yourself like a pat on the back is so much greater because you just kept building it up. So it's like if you had a giant bright light it's like you'd find like the biggest bright light ever to be like, wow, that's bright light. But for someone who just like all of a sudden it's dark, it's like the tiniest little speck of light. It's like now they notice. So it's like for her,
right.
maybe that's why it's so hard for her to recognize, or like anyone, like why it's so hard for them to recognize like I'm getting better, because they've seen
The great
the
light.
great light, and they
Right.
don't care about that little speck of light, even though that's like so much easier to see the improvement in a dark room than it was when they were at such a high pedestal.
That's good, bro.
It's,
It's good enough.
well, it's just like a really interesting thing to think about. It's like why
Yeah.
people so, because when you kept explaining this and you guys talking about it, it's like I just think about the natural aging process. Like I'm never gonna be the person I was
Yeah.
10 years ago.
Like
You know, it's like
slowly-
it's just the
yes.
reframing of it.
Yeah.
It's like when someone comes to you and be like, "I'm just getting old." It's like, okay, but what do you do now? Like my grandma, who's 93, and she had to deal with the burden of taking care of my grandpa for so many years, and he had dementia, and so obviously that can be heartbreaking. But she's 93 and she's more joyful and lively than ever. She's starting businesses. She's waking up every day and she's enjoying the things that she didn't get to do, and because she's always
Because she was taking care of.
because she was taking care of someone.
Mhm.
And it's like she could be the person who's like, oh, I'm getting old, I'm just gonna let myself go. It's like, but now she has the time that she never did. She had 9 kids when she was when she was a mother. When she was a mother, she was worried about putting food on the table and making sure all the kids are in the house at night.
Dude, that's
It's like now that she's old and she has no one else to care for, she can finally care for herself.
Totally.
So it's like, I think it's all about the reframing.
Yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Any specific articles you guys want to talk about?
Yeah, there's one more that I want to talk about quickly with just a couple of points, and then we should probably summarize. And it was specifically about like grief in nursing facilities. And one of the things that that it mentioned that I immediately thought of was we've talked about depression, especially like when and I mentioned caregiver burden earlier, and how that can lead to depression. And like these nurses working in like nursing homes and such, they experience grief. Like this article, what it said was they experience grief to the same effect that like the family members experience grief, because they deal with these patients every day. They develop a bond, and then they're working with them, they get to know them, they get to love them in some capacity, and then they have to watch them deteriorate and ultimately pass.
Yeah.
And they can, I won't say that they do, like it's obviously going to be case by case basis, but they can experience the same level of grief that that patient's family members do. And I couldn't help but think like that caregiver burden, you're dealing with all of that, but then that's your job, and then you have to get it back out there and do it again. And the point of that article, like, man, it kills me to think about what those people are going through on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Because like, all right, gotta get back out there and do it again. But the point of the article was talking about the relationship between the grief that they're dealing with through their occupation and how that can be mitigated through the appropriate support, like just recognition, and helping them deal with it. And it's just, is your facility, whatever facility you're working for, are they providing you that appropriate support? Because if they do, the effects of that grief can be so much less, because it's just giving them a voice and recognizing what they're going through and saying specifically in that community that they go to, their job they go to every day, we see what you're going through, all right, and we appreciate what you're doing, and we're going to help you get through it, because we need you to keep doing your job. And but the unfortunate fact is a lot of facilities don't provide that. Like, I think it was I can't remember the number, but the greater majority, they don't. It's unfortunate. It really truly is that we rely on these people to take care of our loved ones, and we don't think about the effects that it has on them.
Right.
And because you just think like, oh, they're doing their job, and we don't know that, like, you know, because my grandfather, he died in a care facility, and I never even considered the people who took care of him up to the end. You know, how did they feel? Did it affect them? Did they go home and cry?
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
yeah, and I mean, I gotta be honest, when it came down to it, like, I mean, they lived in small town, rural Indiana, so the place that they went to was the best that they could do, but it was not great.
Mhm.
And so I feel very confident that the people who took care of him up to the end, they did not have any kind of, or they probably had minimal or poor quality support, if any.
Mm-hmm.
And that bothers me, that I mean, it's 5 years later, and I'm just now, like, thinking about that, so.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just thought of like so many things. The place where you even put your loved one, you know, it's like that's a burden. The financial part, like, oh, I wish I could afford something greater to, you know, potentially have this resources for everyone to have a better experience. But it also makes me think about the unique thing that we got to see is the caregiver also being in a relationship with the receiver.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like there's that point where like you recognize like one thinks that they're a burden on the other because it's not their
yeah.
job, you know,
Was
or
it
like
really-
vice versa,
Say it again.
that they're a burden on each other. Like, like you know, like you don't have to take care of me. Like, you know, it's kind of like you're always like, don't you have other things you want to do? It's like there's that burden of like you're holding someone back.
Mhm.
Say that.
And
Man.
you know, you think about that too, because it's a different perspective. Because when you do it for a job, it's like, oh, this person's getting paid. It's okay.
Mhm.
Like this
Yeah.
is their job. This is the
Easy
way
to
it is.
dismiss.
Yep, this is the way it
Right.
is.
Mhm.
Right.
But when it's part of their life, it's because it goes both ways. You know,
Mhm.
where she's probably feeling a burden because she thinks that she's a burden. You know, or
Right.
it's vice versa. I'm sorry that you feel the way that you do. Like, trust me, you're not a burden to me.
Yep.
And you have to have this constant battle of trying to explain to each other that you're not a burden to each other.
You said.
And that becomes a burden in itself.
You hit it on the head earlier when you said it's all about perception.
Yeah.
Good. Perspective, perception.
Right.
Yeah.
But that happens though, because those emotions are there. Like, for them are both frustrated. I mean, there's a point where she was saying, like, if I can't walk or if I can't do anything, I don't want to live.
I don't want to live, right?
You know, so it's like, if people were to let them just give up, where would they be? And that's where I think about with the people that didn't get the help.
Mhm.
Like, you know, the people who might have been great at their job, but because they didn't get support, they leave.
Yeah.
It's like the same thing. If Grace didn't get that support and that love,
Mhm.
would she be where she's at today? You know?
Yeah.
And so it's a
Oh.
crazy thing.
All right, we need to sum up here, gentlemen.
Wow, we did good. Let's go. Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I know. Let's see. Let me collect myself.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
feel
no,
like
it's
to
like so many
start.
good things we
That was
talked about here.
yeah, that was a lot. I don't know. We talked a lot about burnout
Mm-hmm.
and grief. We didn't specifically like name grief as often, but I know we definitely discussed
Right.
it
Right.
in great detail, and how it affects people, generally how it affects people, because I
Mhm.
think that's where I focused. I mean, I couldn't help but be drawn to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So,
totally.
And specifically on like the profession, I mean healthcare in general, PT of course, how it affect it can affect, or burnout can affect us, and I don't know, what else did we talk about? We talked about a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
Support.
I think like the
Yeah.
main things that we were getting at is like everyone feels like this burden and this
Mhm.
grief. They're gonna feel it,
Yeah.
and it's their perception and their coping is
Yeah.
what really determines if they're burnout or if they're gonna be resilient and
Right.
be able to
Yeah.
overcome it.
Good. Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Awesome.
Good
Thank
discussion,
you.
guys.